show.
Thank you.
That being said, woo, Crazy Rich Asians. I'm so excited. So it made $25 million at the box office this weekend, the 3-day haul, and then for the 5-day full opening, $34 million for the first day. I want to start with this question. So basically, but do you, okay, in looking at the coverage, this is a celebration of, yet again, a diverse film that should have been made a long time ago and many more after that. So is it sad when you look at the coverage that it's still making like, even insiders are considering this sort of like, oh, it overperformed or a surprise opening, or so, it's like, what do you feel about that?
Well, we see this all the time with movies starring people of color, that it overperformed or underperformed, which brings the question, with the tracking, who are they tracking? And I would suspect that they are mostly tracking younger white males, because this happens time and time again.
Exactly.
However, I'm just really happy that this movie did well. It's been 25 years, is that right?
Yes. 25 years since The Joy Luck Club, which was the last studio movie starring in majority or all Asian cast.
Asian cast. And which we should point out, Linda G here is an enthusiast, because when I saw her Twitter, we used to work together and at a former site, and you were so into the movie, and I was like, oh my God, I got to get someone that is like really excited about this movie for obvious reasons, but we all should be we talked about this, you know, a couple episodes ago, just about Black Panther this summer, Crazy Rich Asians, but do you think that the success, like, okay, so Hollywood does something and then it's like everyone's all about it. Linda, do you think that the success of this weekend is going to actually impact the representation of Asian Americans in Hollywood?
Well, hopefully. I mean, the director, John M. Chu, he said, like, there's 4 movies that are waiting for a green light, waiting for this weekend to see what happens. They're just looking for an excuse to say yes or no. If it does well, 4 more movies will go into production. We'll get the green light. We'll get the money that it needs to be made. And then if it underperforms, which thankfully it didn't, then, you know, that's an excuse that Hollywood's going to say, well, no one wants to see Asian people on screen.
Well, it's interesting because I was reading when I was doing my research on all this, and so the movie-going public in America last year, 6% of the movie going in America were Asian. So only 6% made up Asians. But then this movie was about 40%, 38 to 48%, depending on which trade.
38 to 40%,
yeah, for Crazy Rich Asians. The interesting thing is I feel like it's a chicken and egg situation, because then you had Hollywood going, well, only 6% of Asians in America go to the movies, so we don't, well, they're not going to go to movies that they maybe don't want to relate to or don't see themselves portrayed in roles. I mean, speak to that.
Well, there are so many different niche markets, and I think every market should have movies that represents them and their community. So this was not a big budget movie. It's going to make a lot of money. It's done well. So let's have more movies like this targeting this market. I went to see the movie yesterday in Burbank because I missed the screenings, and the theater was mostly Asian, so that was a big deal. I've never seen, you know, that type of diversity, you know, that many Asians at the theater.
The interesting thing, Linda, so like when do you feel though that as an Asian American, do you feel that is true, like that you did, like, you watch a lot of movies, you're a TV buff, but was it really upsetting to you as you saw not enough representation, that you wish there was more? Like, where would you find, say, entertainment elsewhere than that you saw it yourself, or you related to people more so than the movies and films that Hollywood's been putting out since the dawn of time?
Yeah, it's really difficult. Like, growing up, I never really saw myself on screen. I watched all white people on screens, basically, and it's like, that's what's great about sort of this kind of movie. It's not targeting Asians. Like, Asians get to see themselves on screen, which is great and so long overdue. We've been hungry for this kind of content, but it's also a movie that everybody can watch. Like, it's about family. Like, who doesn't dread meeting your boyfriend's parents, you know? It's a universal movie, and it doesn't have to just target Asians.
Well, that's what I want to see. Like, we're having this conversation in 2018 about breaking through the all-black superhero movie, the all-black girls trip movie, and now the Asian rom-com. But it's like, wouldn't it be nice when we get to the point where it's just like, why doesn't everything just transcend? It's just a movie about a family. That it's like, for me, that's where I think about Empire. I felt like Empire was one of the few shows that did cross all of demographics, you know, and it was like, you're just watching a really good drama that was predominantly a black cast, but to me it was like, you could have put any other race in that show, and it would still be a good show. I mean, it might not revolve around R&B music, but it could be country music, if you want to. But I think this is a step in the right direction, but I still feel I'm not gonna like pop open the champagne till I see about if I see what's the next step of all of this.
Yeah.
I also think, and I want to hear your opinion, both of you. Do you think also that there's it seems to be like the groups in Hollywood that are the loudest seem to get the most change, and I refer back to the Scarlett Johansson and the trans community being so loud about that role. Do you think that's just a matter of like maybe that the Asian community hasn't been loud enough, with making noise about the underrepresentation? Could that also play into all of this, lack of fare with Asians featured?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a cultural thing. I mean, Asians were brought up to be sort of very polite, very, not submissive, but I feel like that's how people kind of see us.
Yes.
So when we do make noise, it feels like people think it's easy to just ignore it. There's so much whitewashing, especially for Asian characters. They're like, it's okay if we cast a white character. Like, Asians aren't going to make that big of a deal out of it.
Yeah.
And it's only in the last few years that people have been like, oh no, they're mad. They're not gonna, they're over this. Like, you cannot keep doing this to us.
What do you think about that?
I agree with you 200%.
Yeah.
What was the movie Hellboy, where there was this whole whitewashing controversy? So I did a story on that a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago, and I interviewed some Asian activists, and they said traditionally in our community, we don't speak out about these things, particularly about entertainment, but now we're finding our voice. And they said to me, Black people have traditionally, African Americans, been very vocal on these issues, and we're following their lead.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference. So, hooray for the Asian community. I'm happy this movie did well. I want to see more movies like this.
I also want to mention, though, just as like being a person, all three of us that have worked in Hollywood, though, it is also just like an institutional problem also, because, Asian, like how many Asians are running studios, are running TV networks, are running divisions that make these decisions. It all starts again. Too many white straight men running, Hollywood that make or too many white agents and managers. It's like, it's not just that I think that, it's not the public that won't go see these movies, it's the people deciding what to greenlight.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that it's got to still be fixed there. Okay, well, just because every celebration has to have like a skunk at the garden party. So there was like one article I could find today that, of course, in all of like this is a win, everybody. It's a win. Like, a funny movie, well-produced, well-directed movie with an almost all Asian cast, did well at the box office, and of course then I see this article that's like, but it didn't represent all Asians. What do we say to that?
I have so much to say about that.
Please.
It's one movie. I feel like Roger Ebert said this at the Sundance Film Festival when there was that whole controversy with Better Luck Tomorrow, Justin Lin's little indie film that was kind of a breakthrough for us. You would never ask a white filmmaker to defend his film having to represent the entire diverse experience of an entire race. And by the way, Asians are the most populous race on the planet. There's like 7 billion of us.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like it's one movie, it's a rom-com, it's never gonna represent everybody, nor should it have that responsibility.
I almost read it like, it was like saying like, if like a movie came out and it was based on, say, like a family based in Texas, you're like, but it didn't represent like the urban white people.
Exactly.
Like, what are you supposed to say? Like,
you would never even ask that question.
I literally was wondering, like, did the editors and writers just go, we need to write a contrarian piece? What could we write that's like contrarian? Everyone's celebrating it. We have to write something opposite. What did you think of that?
I mean, to me, it's a little ludicrous. So we could say that about movies about people living on the coast. Well, those movies don't represent people who live in the South.
Any movie.
Every day. There's different types of movies about different subjects. So
when I saw the headline, I got taken in, and then I was like, no.
You tried. Yeah. And by the way, I feel like John M. 2 really did try to put as much people of different experiences in there.
In it. I mean, he would need like another 8 hours to include all the...
Exactly.
Okay, well, congrats to Warner Brothers and the cast of the movie and John Chu on this win. So let's see what happens next in Hollywood.
We better get the sequels. There's 3 books, so there's at least 2 more movies.
Oh, and you've read them all?
Yeah, I've read them.
Okay,
got it. I'm impressed.
So next, Unhinged, a insider's account of the White House.